Welcome everyone to the Sacred Hockey Mask. I am Peter, and joining me is
Lady Shasha, Mistress of the Snark, coming to you from sunny Orlando, Florida.
And this is a horror movie podcast where we have watched a movie, we get together, and we talk about it. It's really quite that simple. And today we are looking at Slaxx. That's Slaxx. It is a movie about killer jeans. We did Killer Hair a week or two ago, and now we're doing Killer Trousers, which sounds silly, and it is. Let's not try and pretend that it's not, but that's what we're here to talk about. So we're going to get into it. We'll start spoiler free as we do. We'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers, and we'll get into it. So first thing I'll say about this is that, and I'm not saying, like, obviously I like horror movies. There's a reason why I do a horror movie show, multiple horror movie shows at that. But I have to say, there's a nice little feeling when I sit down to watch the movie and I see the runtime is 74 minutes, and I'm like,
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this is short. Especially when we're doing like 2 recordings today and I have to watch 2 movies. I'm like, oh, one's only 74 minutes. Score. This is the opposite of The Empty Man, where I sat down and went, 2 hours 20? What the hell are you playing at? So, yes. Did you know much about this before we sat down to watch it?
Well, I'd seen the trailer because I have Shudder, and when it was first released, they kind of played the ad for it a lot, so I knew about it and I had it on my watch list.
Yeah, they like to shove their new exclusives down your throat whenever they get one. Unlike a lot of the Shudder exclusives though, which look kind of generic, this did have kind of a... At least the trailer stood out. It looked unique. And yeah, it's got the gimmicky, silly concept of like killer jeans going around and killing people, but the trailer had enough of a sense of humor. It had enough kind of a bit, bubbly energy that it was like, oh, this might actually be a kind of a fun movie. We'll have to see what it's like. So I was very excited. This was another vote winner from Patreon that we're still kind of working through the old vote winners from Tim being on paternity leave, the scoundrel that he is. And this was next on the list. But I was excited that this one won because I actually thought it looked kind of at least interesting. I mean, even if it ends up sucking, I imagine there'll be some stuff to say about it. So, yeah. So, what is the premise of Slaxx? Other than the fact that there's killer jeans, it's set in a store, a closed a closed store, and it's one of these fancy places. It's called CC&C, which I think, if I remember correctly, it was Canadian
clothing company.
Was it just Canadian clothing company? That's really basic. They put a lot of thought into that name. But they're very proud of being fair trade, of being very socially conscious, and they kind of have this thing where they kind of come off almost cult-like the way they try to inspire their employees. Now, admittedly, a lot of businesses do kind of come off a little cult-like when they're sort of saying, oh, we're doing the best and you're a part of a team and we're all a family and we're here to get... And that bullshit positivity, which is just nonsense. But what's unique here is that the main character, Libby, who's introduced at the start of the film, she actually buys into it in a cult-like way, where she's like, oh, I've been so passionate about coming to work here since I was 16. It's a clothes shop, right? Calm down, right? This is a retail store. This is not the dream. This is not the dream.
And it reminded me very much of a store like the Gap or Old Navy, which it's the same company, Old Navy, Gap, and Banana Republic. So whether you want to buy $10 jeans, $30 jeans, or $70 jeans, they still get your money because it's all the same company. But we do have... I don't want to call it a corporate culture because it's a little bit different in corporate America, but in the stores in the US, they really do have that. Like, I remember I took a Christmas job one time at Best Buy, which is an electronic store mostly, but it also sells like, CDs, DVDs. And they used to make us chant in the morning, like, 484, your number one store. And it was just so creepy. I didn't like it at all.
That is, because there's a lot of things in this that are definitely like a heightened... like, so almost like a satire of the... Because because there is a lot of retail stores that you'll go to where they'll be more normal and they'll just treat it like a normal workplace and it's fine. But you do get these ones that are like this. This is like a heightened version of one of those more like, we're going to be enthusiastic and we're going to be everyone's friend kind of stores. And I think that the thing that made me laugh is that I know that when it comes to big stores like that, when they do have like a new set of stock to put out, because the premise of the film, it takes place on this night when they're putting out the new range of clothes for the next morning. It's like the new season of clothes, and the idea is that a lot of staff have to stay back late and swap out all the stock overnight, right? That's a real thing that more or less happens. But when I talk about them like sort of turning it up to 11 in an unrealistic way, they literally lock down the store in this like it's like a Fort Knox where like shutters come down and like no one can get in or out even if there's an emergency. Like they're trapped in there with the killer jeans because this is their protocol for when they're swapping out stock. Now don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's rules. I've never worked at a clothes shop specifically. I'm sure there is rules about, I don't know, leaking footage of the new stock or something. Like I'm sure there is probably some rules, but I don't imagine they're literally locking down and like shutting off all the Wi-Fi and like.
Oh no, I don't. I've not seen that before.
I mean, who knows? Maybe. I know a lot of like film and game companies. I know a lot of them. Like all the floors that have all the people working on, like they say the effects, or if it's a video game company, they're working on like making the game. I know that all of their computers that they work on are intentionally not connected to the internet so that things can't leak. Like they'll obviously in the building there'll be a place where there is computers connected to the internet, but all of the developers who work on the game itself, none of those are connected to the network. It's all internal, so that things can't easily leak. So yeah, there's a little bit of truth sort of that's been stretched kind of in this mentality, but that's it. So I know Shasha's going to hate this movie because it's a bottle movie. It's all set in the department store overnight.
Believe it or not, I did not hate this movie. But full disclosure, I was raised on Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. So I mean, I remember sitting down and watching that when I was like 7 years old, and I'm like, this is an amazing movie.
Sure.
So it's in that same vein.
Believe it or not, I have yet to see Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. You think I would have seen it?
Oh, you have to do a Screams After Midnight on that.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet. For some reason, it's one of those weird movies where, for whatever reason, in the UK, only the sequel seems to ever be around. Like Return of the Killer Tomatoes is always kicking about, but for some reason, it's one of those things where maybe just the right issues are weird, so no one's released it here in a long time, or I don't know. But yes, so
that's like Halloween 4 and 5 here.
Really,
networks are always playing Halloween 4 and 5, but not so much the others unless it's a special. But I'm guessing that it's just easier to get the rights to Halloween 4 and 5.
Yeah, the rights for Halloween are all over the place because it's like 4 different studios own the rights split up across the movies. So it's. But anyway, Slaxx. I like this movie. I don't love it. It's frustrating to me that like some of the early stuff with the jeans is really funny, and I appreciate that the characters are really over the top and memorable. And as much as I opened this review with saying, "Oh, I was excited to see 74 minutes. That sounds great," I actually think, having watched the movie, that it probably could have used another 10-15 minutes. And I think what it's missing is maybe just a bit more I felt like it was getting into its final act where they were figuring things out far too early. I was like, wait, I feel like I'm missing a chunk of the movie. Why are we already at this point where we're discovering what's caused this and what's going on? And it felt like a lot of people were killed off screen and I didn't get to see it. So I mean, maybe it just boils down to I needed a few more kills to make the pacing feel right, but I felt like there was something missing in that sense. But I did like the tone of the movie. I liked the characters for the most part, and how assholey most of them were. So it was just kind of funny to see them get killed off. Obviously we'll get to it in the spoilers, but it has a shockingly dark ending, which we'll get to. And yeah, so there is some satire here about consumerism, which isn't a shock given the type of store this is and the premise that it has. Obviously, there's lots of horror movies that have tackled consumerism, Dawn of the Dead being the most famous and notable, but this is making it even more literal because it's the actual product itself that has turned villainous and is killing people. So So I would say it's worth a watch. I would say that it doesn't quite hit that cult status of this needs to be seen, but if you're looking for something like this, it's definitely a fun time for it's 74 minutes. What are your general thoughts? How did you feel more in depth?
I enjoyed it a lot. I at first I thought I was going to be disappointed with it because the first couple kills were kind of off screen or cutaways, but then it got progressively more graphic. Like you got to see a little bit of blood first, and then it got a little bit of gore, and then building up to more gory scenes. And I feel like in order for a movie like this to work, the payoff has to be in the gore, and then there wasn't that much comedy. I think they probably could have put more comedy in it, but I think they didn't want to undermine the message that they had with the movie.
I'm going to remind Shasha that she said it could have used more comedy when we talk about a scene later on, because there's definitely a really over-the-top comedy moment that I think needs to be addressed. Now, I agree, and I was fine with the first kill, because the first kill, ultimately, I wasn't sure how much more you could have really shown given what was happening. But the second kill, it felt weird that we didn't see the kill shot, because it is... I mean, even though the genes are the thing that's doing it, the kill itself is actually a very kind of traditional slasher movie kill in a lot of ways. And it felt weird that it kind of hid the I'll just say the penetration. And because of that, I was like, oh, is this going to be like really held back in terms of actual blood and gore? And it can still be fun. Like I can still enjoy the campiness of it and whatnot, but it will hold it back if it doesn't give me some kills. Luckily, the third kill is probably the most fun and the most over the top and the most ridiculous. Let's just say the zip is also a weapon. Not just the legs, the zip is also a weapon. But yeah, so yeah. Honestly, it's entertaining time. I suspect this will probably be one of our shortest episodes, partly because the movie's so short, but also just because we'll talk about the kills, we'll talk about some of the characters. As far as spoiler free goes, I like some of the music. I think it had a nice vibe. I do like bottle movies that are set in one night, so I kind of like that feel to it. And I, as much as I was making fun of like the literal lockdown where the building just cannot be escaped until a certain time, until the lock releases, as if it's like a quarantine scientific lab or something dangerous has to escape the air and it takes 12 hours or something like that. Like, no, this place is locked down because someone might see our new t-shirts. Like, that is funny. And the manager's this douchebag who wants to become regional manager, and I can't hear the phrase regional manager anymore without thinking of The Office. And
he was such a what's the term I used for him? I put it in my notes.
Prick. Suck up. There you go.
Oh, and a prick. Yeah.
Yes.
When the regional manager came, or maybe he was one of the company heads, he was such a suck up. And it's kind of weird to see that in real life too. I've worked for people, like when I was a teenager, I remember working for managers that when a regional manager came, they just like followed him around like a little lap dog. And it was just so weird. It was like they had so much company, what do they call it? Blind loyalty to a company that would replace you in a heartbeat.
Yep. He is very much that. He's a parody of that, and then obviously it goes to really extreme lengths as the movie goes on. Yeah, I think that was actually the CEO who came. Like, that was the idea. It was the big hotshot CEO came in and gave a speech. Because that's the thing, like, the main character is very like, oh, I was my dream to work here, but all of the other staff are quite bitchy and just, I guess, slightly more normal, until the CEO makes his speech, and then all of a sudden they're all drinking the Kool-Aid. They're all like, yes, we sell clothes and we loved selling clothes. Okay, actually, it's one of my, it's not even a pet peeve, it's more than a pet peeve, but one of the biggest problems I have with society is when you go for a job interview for a place that's like a retail store or even a fast food place or any type of normal kind of entry level job, right, is that they still in the interview will always ask something to the effect of, oh, why are you particularly interested in here, or why are you passionate about this place? And it's like, it's a retail store. I'm not passionate about. I need a job, right?
Exactly.
That doesn't have to be. That doesn't have to make me look like a dick because you don't think I love you with every fiber of my being. Like, you know, I can be an adult and say, I need a job. This is a well-paying job that's steady, and well, it may not be well-paying most of the time, but you know what I mean. Like, but no, you have to sit there and you have to bullshit your way through why you're passionate about, you know, whatever. Like, oh, it's been my dream to sell greasy burgers to fat people.
I had a job one time at this place. It was a sandwich shop called D'Angelo's, and we had to take a sandwich test, like a literal sit-down test on the sandwiches, answering questions about the sandwiches.
I was going to ask, like, is it a test to see if you can make a sandwich, or is it like a taste test where you have to like tell them what type of sandwich you're eating?
No, it was a test, like, you know, it would say like what goes into a 12-inch Italian sub, and then you have to write, okay, number one, Genoa salami, and then lettuce, tomato, American cheese, or I can't remember all the stuff that goes on. It's like 20 years ago.
It's not, but yeah, it's all right. You don't have to.
I had to study for the sandwich test.
Don't worry, you don't have to pass the test again. I'm not going to. Yeah. I'm not going to pick you up on the mistakes. But yeah, it's like, I mean, at least with that, I get the practical. Like, you have to know this to actually make this. Although I like, why there isn't just a cheat sheet like behind the counter?
Yeah, there should just be a little sign.
Whatever.
And after you make the sandwich about 10 times, you're gonna remember it anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But at least there, I can kind of see a practical, like, you need to know that, but pretending that you're passionate about making sandwiches, like, yeah, no, it's not pretend anything.
Do you remember the Subway commercials? I don't know if you had them over there, that they used to call their employees sandwich artists.
I've heard this. We didn't have those commercials, but I have heard this. Well, maybe the sandwich artists can learn to alternate the cheese triangle so it actually covers the whole base of the sandwich and doesn't overlap and then leaves blank space. Now, I've given up cheese. I gave up cheese like 2 years ago, so this is not a concern for me anymore. But this used to piss me off. Like, alternate. Like, scaffolding. Scaffolding is made out of triangles that alternate, right? Just do the cheese like that, you bastards. Anyway. This is going into a weird tangent. So
hey, I agree.
It's just, you know, it's just a lot. It's simple. It's not rocket science. This isn't like, you know, solving like advanced mathematics and figuring out formula. It's just turn every other slice of cheese the other way around. That's it. Just, I don't know.
Also, in that type of store, it's hell to work at a store that's set up that way. Which, by the way, kudos to them for either shooting this at a real store or making the set look very, very realistic, including the stock room and that back hallway. That's the way the back hallways look in the malls here that the public usually doesn't see. But all those folded up jeans, when you work in a store like that, 90% of your time is refolding the jeans because customers come in, they take several pairs of jeans, try them on, leave them in the fitting room. Then you have to take those jeans, refold them, put them back on the shelf. And it's a cycle all day.
That was actually one of the other things I liked about the characters in the movie is so when the you know, the manager's, what's his name? He's the prick. Craig. When Craig is, because they've all got these little Bluetooth headsets in, and when Craig is like sort of like designating things and he's like getting everyone, so all of the, I don't know, senior staff, right, all the whoever their rank is, they are like, they've got their sections of their store, and they've got like 2 or 3 employees each to help them arrange that section and stock that section. And what was really kind of making me chuckle a little bit as the movie went on in the first half when this was still happening is they were really treating this like some sort of military operation where Craig would go on his Bluetooth headset and the person would be like 4 feet away from him, but he'd still be on the Bluetooth headset. He'd be like, hey, like, are you ahead of schedule? He's like, yes, we're ahead of schedule. But if you pull any of my people off this, then we'll be behind schedule and we won't get it done on time. And I'm like, like, and I realistically says this is stupid, but in the context of the movie, them treating it this seriously, where it's this well-oiled machine where all of these departments around the store are all having to do this at the same time, and are all treating it like they've got targets to hit was really funny to me. Just at this level, right? Again, there's there's a little crumb of truth to this, right? And yes, targets are had and things like that go on in stores, but the way it was being treated in this movie, where it's like an operation where there's like 5 teams all working at the same time, and I don't know, it was all very funny to me. So and then he'd be like, Craig would like be barking at orders, and he would be trying to find someone else, and everything would be falling apart. So, I like the over the topness of the characters and the way they spoke about the store, the way they treated their work. It gave it kind of a popcorn, fun, almost 80s vibe to how things are, even though it's obviously set in present day, and because they reference social media and stuff. In fact, one of the other characters who comes in is this influencer who talks about clothes on YouTube, and she's coming to get a sneak peek at the clothes at midnight or whatever it is, and she has a big scene, and that's another thing we'll get into in spoilers. So, yes, that's basically it. Spoiler free. I don't know if I have anything else to add. And 5 minutes of that was us complaining about Subway and cheese artistry.
And I do agree with you with the music. I like the music in this as well.
Let's give the spoiler warning and get cracking on into it. I guess the first thing we'll talk about, I suppose, is the jeans themselves and the fact that they do move around. The effect is kind of fun to see them move around and sort of. It's not stop motion, but it almost feels stop motion-esque, the way the jeans are kind of like walking around on their own or crawling. And then there's times where the waist of the jeans, if they're lying on the floor, almost look like a mouth, the way it opens and closes. All that's pretty fun. As far as the kills themselves, so there's kind of like a, I don't know, bitchy girl, I guess, who steals a pair of these jeans early to wear, because she needs something to wear, and she puts them on, and when she's after the speech that the CEO gives, she's like, "Oh, Aunt Flo's came to visit. I'm going to go have to deal with this in the bathroom." But when she gets to the bathroom, she tries to take them off, and she just can't. They just won't let her. Like, she can't unzip, she can't take the button out, and this first kill is actually the jeans just crushing her. They're just getting tighter and tighter until blood starts pouring down onto the floor. And I thought this was fun. Part of me was worried a little bit that, wait, is this going to be all the kills? Is it all just going to be people who put the jeans on? Luckily, it gets a lot wackier very, very soon. But it makes sense that this is the first kill. It makes sense that this is what this is. And then the second girl who gets killed, this is the one that I thought was a little bit weird in that, so the jeans actually sort of like grab her and like start to like tackle her and like sort of like they go around her legs and stuff, and they basically force her to move around until her head like lands on the like the coat hook, which stabs her. I was a little bit worried with this one, and I think you probably agree with this, that it felt like it was really trying to avoid showing anything good in this scene.
Yeah. And at this point, I was worried that the rest of the movie would be that way. I was like, well, the first kill, they didn't show too much other than the blood coming down. The second kill, you see her leg twisting, and then you see that she's, hit her head on the hook, but I almost feel like I didn't see the head at all. Like it was just implied, and it was shot from maybe the shoulders down.
It felt almost edited for like PG-13. Like there was a more brutal version of this that was cut around to make it work, and it's not like there's still there's gorier kills later and there's F-bombs and stuff, so it's not like it need to be edited down, but it kind of feels that in the scene. I didn't mind the first one, because the first one I'm not even sure, because what else could you show really other than just blood pouring down?
There's a little movie called Pieces where this girl was
I've seen Pieces, don't you worry.
Yeah, you could have shown that. Like the jeans could have literally cut her in half.
I mean, later on we see the jeans basically eat all the flesh off of someone and just like the skeleton lying there.
That was remind me of Piranha. I don't know if you remember the leg scene in Piranha.
That's very Piranha.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in spoilers, so I guess we can reveal that, yes, by the end of the movie, it's more like Aliens, where there's like lots of jeans all going around killing people like a pack, which good fun that. But the third kill is really fun though, because the third kill is the guy who goes back to look for the others or whatever he's doing, and he picks up the jeans, and this is where it gets proper fun. Not just because they get more inventive, because it's like, oh no, it's going to use every possible way like a pair of jeans could potentially kill someone, and this is where it uses the zipper, where it just cuts off his thumb. The zip just goes zoop, and his thumb goes off, and then it somehow like wraps around his arms to the point where it cuts off both of his hands. And this is ridiculous. The jeans are like flapping around, going around him, and he's screaming, and there's blood everywhere. The whole thing's very chaotic, a bit silly and fun, and it was like, if you were worried about them not showing enough in the last kill, this one kind of like put your mind at ease, because like, oh no, this one's not holding back. But if anything, it's weird that they held back so much in the last kill. I guess maybe they were trying to build up to it, but it still felt weird not to just see like a shot from behind of her head just hanging there or something. But you never see that. You just see her hands kind of like dangling by her side. But yeah. So before we go any further on the kills though, during this whole part of the movie, at one point Craig, when he's missing the first two girls, sends our main character Libby to go look for him, and she actually finds the first victim. She finds the bitchy girl like stuffed into a bathroom closet, which, by the way, the jeans is actually like moving the bodies and disposing of them after it's killed them.
There's one point where somebody's body is found in a box. All their body parts. I think it's the guy had his thumbs cut off and the zipper, his hands cut off. I think the jeans continue to cut him in pieces, and then they find him neatly in a box with his head on the top. And it reminded me of this scene from Tokyo Gore Police, where the woman was found the same way, just chopped in pieces in a box. I don't know whether that was an homage to that or just coincidental.
Yeah, and it's after that where the jeans crawls back into the box, so that they'll be put out on display for the influencer. I hate using that word. The influencer coming out. But during this, so Libby finds this body and brings Craig back, and Craig's like, "Oh, this is awful, but I mean, we can't do anything until 8 a.m. anyway, so don't tell anyone, they'll panic. So let's just try and have this all go smoothly." So this is like, okay, so he's not just like this kiss ass like asshole. He is delusional, sociopathic. And there's a good chance that by the end of the movie he's probably going to be psychotic, because he's trying to cover this up, and he gets Libby to help him move the body somewhere in one of their big laundry baskets, and then says to her, "You've been such a good sport about this. I'm going to waive the first month of your employee thing." I don't know what he said. It sounds like they make the employees pay some sort of subscription monthly, which is the opposite of what working for a place is supposed to be.
Yeah.
They pay you, not the other way around. But yeah, and because that's the thing, like some of the other staff are dicks as well. Like the guy who works at the cashier, he like she has to buy some clothes because she's told by the other guy that she has to be wearing clothes that are in season from the store. So she grabs some clothes, she goes to pay for them, says, "Oh, I get an employee discount, right? Because I work here now." And he's like, "Well, technically you start at midnight, so no discount for you."
Yeah, that was a complete dick move, because number one, why do you care? You get paid the same whether you give her the discount or not. Like, it doesn't affect you in any way other than you just want to be a dick.
I mean, it's like horror movie 101 is you make us dislike a bunch of people so we can just enjoy them being killed later on. Takes the humanity out of it a little bit. So the movie does take a bit of a weird turn though, where it kind of feels like, because we do see enough kind of extras who also work in the store that do kind of disappear very quickly once like this next big kill happens, which is the influencer is killed by the jeans, is strangled by the jeans in front of everyone, so they all start freaking out. And then we kind of like cut away from the chaos, and we get Libby waking back up, who was knocked out by Craig because she was like, "Maybe we should tell someone about all these murders that are happening," and he knocks her unconscious. So we miss a lot of this stuff, and she comes out and like sees the aftermath of all this. But what's really weird is that the girl who kind of becomes a friend, what's her name, Shruti.
Shruti, yes.
So she is Indian, and she has a couple of, and that's relevant because there's it really feeds into like what we find out about the the lore of the genes, but it's relevant early on because there's a couple of moments where she sort of brings it up to try and like get away with something with the manager, and then she's kind of a dick to Libby when Libby tries to sort of like, you know,
relate to her, yeah.
talk to her, says, hey, I like, you know, Bollywood music, because she referenced it. She's like, are you assuming because I'm Indian that I like Bollywood music? And she gets, and I felt, and Libby's so timid, and like she sort of, but is like, no, I'm sorry, oh, don't, yeah. I think Shruti just likes being mean.
She actually had a little bit of a character arc because she went from being a complete jerk to kind of wanting to help Libby.
Yeah, she has that character arc, and then Libby has the character arc of being indoctrinated into this, you know, this fair trade, perfect company who makes nice clothes, who's doing everything right for the world, and by the end realizes that she's actually stuck in a consumerist, like, capitalist nightmare of a bunch of liars.
Yeah.
So, because, you know, that's her main arc. Yeah, I mean, the arcs aren't super, you know, deep or anything. Like, I think the movie obviously would like them to be, particularly Libby's, because that's kind of the main satire of the movie. But, but yeah, but there's a scene while she's knocked out, or while she's getting up, there's a scene with Shruti where Shruti walks out into the main store. She wasn't around for the big commotion where the genes was apparently killing everyone. And she walks into the store, doesn't notice that there's like dead bodies and blood and stuff kicking around. And even if that's all been moved by the genes, she doesn't notice that there's no one around. Like, why would there be no one out here, given that everyone's out there meant to be restocking things? But she comes out with her headphones on and she's listening to music, and it's Bollywood music, which kind of, you know, confirms that she was being a dick to Libby. And the genes behind her hears the music and starts dancing. So this is where I go back to what you said earlier about this movie maybe needing a bit more comedy. I don't know.
Well,
that scene
that came out of nowhere. Like, until then, there wasn't really anything comical happening. I mean, there was satire happening by the way the employees, but it wasn't straight comedy. And then all of a sudden, the genes start dancing. I was like, well, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say it has kind of there's no comedy per se, but it does have kind of a comedic vibe. There's like a tone. Maybe it's just because it's Killer Genes. Maybe it's because the characters are so over the top. But there's definitely kind of like a vibe to the movie. But I do have to admit, when the genes started dancing behind her, this is maybe the first moment in the movie where I was like, maybe this is losing me a little bit. I don't know if I really care about the genes dancing. So. But regardless, Libby gets to her soon. Luckily, the camera guy who was filming the influencer, the camera's still rolling, so Libby's able to get the camera and show it to her, and that's when here they sort of end up getting to Craig's office, and where he's hiding from the genes. And this is what I kind of mean when I say that it kind of feels like it gets to the point where we're in the third act super quick, because this is kind of the start of the third act. Once they're in that office and they start kind of figuring things out and sort of looking into why is this way, and they start communicating with the genes, it kind of feels like we've skipped over like a middle portion of the movie where there was a lot more trying to survive. So I did feel like there was something missing in the middle. But so yeah, what is the lore of the genes then? I suppose it's time to tell you that.
Yeah, the lore of the genes, they gave us a glimpse of it at the very beginning of the movie, where they show a young Indian girl that's picking cotton, and she's walking in the field, and then later in the movie it's revealed what happened to her, where she had picked the cotton, she had it in a basket, and she was bringing it over to I'm not sure what the apparatus is called that would process the cotton, and the scarf from her sari gets caught in the machine, and she gets pulled in and is killed.
Yeah. Obviously, we don't see that part at the start. We just see her like at the start. It's kind of like dreamlike almost, because it's like, oh, it's the angelic light of this beautiful morning, and she's walking with all this cotton. But then we get to this towards the end, or this part of the movie, and the genes at this point have actually grabbed a mannequin, and it's where it's sort of put itself on a mannequin, so it's kind of walking around with the body. And noticed it's put a bindi, I think it's called, the dot that some Indians wear on their foreheads. And Shruti recognizes this and goes, wait, that's... And Libby's like, do you speak Indian
she says,
language?
Do you speak Indian?
Yeah,
and she was like, there's I forget the number that she gave.
It was
Maybe
130, I think she said.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of languages,
Yeah, it
and
was
she said she
ridiculous.
spoke Hindi and a little bit of Urdu.
Which I think are the ones that I've heard of. Like, I think if you'd asked me to name a third, I couldn't do it. But those are the ones that I've heard of. So I imagine they're the two most prominent. But it's just, so she tries to communicate, and the genes with blood, and the finger of the mannequin starts writing on the wall, and communicates who and it's this girl with a name. And that's when we get the full. Effectively, obviously, it's not literally a meat grinder because it's for cotton, but that's effectively it's big grinding gears that's processing the cotton, and she gets caught and gets pulled in. So not only obviously is this horrific, and this is like kind of a traditional horror movie thing where someone died related to this item, and now their soul or their ghost has cursed the item, and that's what it is now. But keep in mind, this company were supposed to be fair trade. Turns out that's a lie. It also turns out this girl was 13, so they were using child labor. So this is a big moment, and Craig's like, well, you were so naive. Like, this is just a sales pitch. Like, this is not real. Like, we don't care. Like, so all of this all goes down, and at this point it becomes Libby like, no, we want to help the genes now. And this is really why I think it feels so rushed to get to this point, because if we're going to get to the point where the genes become sympathetic, then that's such a weird sentence to say out loud. But if we're going to get to the point where the genes become sympathetic and our main character actually wants to help the genes or the spirit of the genes, then I feel like we need more of the movie where they're a threat before we get to that point. If it feels like all of a sudden you've made them not a threat to me as the viewer. Now I see them as sympathetic, and therefore I can't, treat them like a horror movie villain anymore. And even though there's still some horror stuff after this, but it mostly comes from Craig trying to trap them and trying to stop this information from getting out because he wants to protect the company. He tries to trap them in a cage after they discover that there's a whole, room full of genes that are all feeding on the blood, because they do eat the blood or drink the blood or whatever you want to say. What's funny is, did you think earlier in the film, before it revealed where it was going and it started to reveal this stuff, did you have other theories? Because I genuinely thought this was going to have something to do with Nazis.
No, I didn't. I just thought it had to do with the girl at the very beginning, but I didn't tie that to Nazis.
Well, the reason why is because they're called super shapers, these genes, and the logo in the back is two S's. And and whenever it drank some blood, it would fill up some of the S with blood. And I thought, oh, maybe this is an old Nazi thing, or these are like Nazi spirits or something, or in the genes. And obviously that's not where it goes. But I genuinely thought there was that, and then there was also the fact that the way Craig, or the way the CEO was kind of nice to everyone and said this is super important and all that, I actually thought the CEO was setting them up to be sacrificed. Like he wanted to feed them to the genes, which kind of tied into my thought about them being Nazi genes. But obviously none of this is what's actually going on. This was just my head trying to put things together and make some sense of it.
I like your rewrite. Now they know what direction to go with the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more pulpy. Obviously, I appreciate that the movie actually wanted to try and say something about consumerism and about literally the stuff that's been made from child labor wanting revenge on the people who buy it as cheap clothes. Well, not even cheap. They mention I think the jeans cost $130 or something stupid like that, which too much.
That's a real thing. That's why I don't understand how people can buy what they call luxury items. When I first finished school, my first degree is in fashion design and merchandising. And that kind of
first degree? How many degrees you got?
3. I was in school for a long time. I liked college. But it kind of ruined it for me because I was similar to that girl where I was excited to work for, in a mall. As a teenager, number one, you want the discount because you can get clothes cheaper.
I mean, that's the main thing you want.
Yeah, but when I went to design school and found out about the manufacturing process and knowing that your average Nike sneaker costs about $7 to manufacture and ship to location, but they sell them for hundreds of dollars. These are $7 shoes, but people have placed such a status on them that, I mean, the shoes that you get from Payless, they're only like maybe $2. And here's the real mind blower: polo shirts. These polo shirts, that whether they have the Ralph Lauren on them or Lacoste or whatever little emblem, you pay so much for that little emblem. Those shirts cost $1.75 to make and manufacture, but generally they cost anywhere from, depending on the brand, from $45 to $75. Or if you're getting the Louis Vuitton version, you're paying $500 for a shirt that costs $1.75 to make. It's mind blowing. It made me look like studying fashion made me no longer into fashion, because I'm like, this is kind of BS.
Yeah, it, yeah. All parts of this are frustrating, and it's why the movie's like noble goal of trying to like turn that into like a horror analogy is fun, because if you look at the movie, because the Jeans never attack Libby after this. The Jeans like Shuri gets killed by Craig. Craig stabs her when he's trying to get the SD card from the camera, and then he's the one who gets completely eaten by all the Jeans, and he's just left as a skeleton. But then the lockdown's going to end, and it's like Black Friday or any of these sort of situations where there's like customers at the door like demanding to get in for their clothes, and Libby's like talking to the Jeans saying, "No, you can't do this. It's not their fault. You can't like kill them all for being consumers." And she tries to like stop the people from getting in, but the sad like dark ending of the movie is that when they bust in, like when she's trying to hold the door shut, and obviously it's just like dozens and dozens of adults against this one barely teenage girl. She gets knocked down and she hits her head, and you just see like blood starting to like come from her head. She's dying. Like they've literally killed her on the way into the store so they can go buy stuff, and then they get slaughtered by the Jeans. Obviously, you just see blood spatter happening and whatnot. But it's this super sad ending of like the consumer like body, en masse, doesn't really know where their things are coming from. Isn't aware of who it's hurting, and you have both the unseen victim, which is this girl who was picking cotton in another country, but then you also have this victim right in front of them who they've stomped over without even paying a second look at, to get to their product, to get to their goods. But it's hard not to think of Black Friday and other stuff like that when you see this crowd barge in.
Especially when people have been injured, and I don't know if anyone has been killed, but I know people have been trampled at Black Friday in the US. It's ridiculous.
I don't, but I mean, someone's going to send me like a clip or something from somewhere, but that I do think that is a pretty US thing. Like,
yes,
I don't think I've ever heard of people like trampling into a store or like running in when there's like a deal on, like, we actually do, for some reason we have Black Friday in the UK now, even though we don't have Thanksgiving. Just wrap your head around that for a minute. But we've always had Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, and that was traditionally our kind of equivalent, which is that's the day where there's a lot of sales on. The idea being that everyone's got all this stock they didn't sell before Christmas, so now they're going to sell it at a discount. Which is actually a nightmare for employees, actually, because not only is it like the Black Friday, it's also probably the biggest returns day of the year, because it's the day after Christmas when everyone's maybe, oh, that shirt was the wrong size, or this thing, wasn't the right item, or whatever. But even on those, like I've been to stores on Boxing Day, and it's still pretty calm, and people are fairly easy going about the whole thing. And you see videos of Black Friday, and like mobs of people running in to try and get a slightly cheap TV.
Do you know why it's called Black Friday?
Maybe I did at one point, but I don't know off the top of my head. So go on, wow me.
Well, what it comes from, they tied it to Thanksgiving as a marketing tool, but it really is just for the stores to get back on track. What they call not making a good profit, they call that being in the red. So in order to get back in the black, they discount things, and they call it Black Friday to get back in the black. But what's happened lately is stores that aren't in the red will do the same thing, except for instead of giving a discount, 3 or 4 months before, they mark the prices up higher. And so when they go on sale, they're just returning to their regular price.
Yeah. I don't know what it says about my mind that when you explained that definition of Black Friday, my mind immediately went, oh yeah, like when they're trying to catch serial killers, and the cases that are in the red are the ones that they've not caught yet, but the ones in the black are the ones that they've done. They've crossed them off the list. They've got the bad guy.
Same concept.
Same concept. No, that's interesting. So this movie is a commentary on that, and it's that ultra satire thing where it makes it pretty literal, where the spirit of this girl is in the genes and it's coming after all these people, who, you know, I mean, obviously it kills everyone in the store first except Libby, and then goes after the consumers themselves, and presumably is going to kill more people. And it's basically, of course, like a warning message of everything that the capitalist culture and that system has done to people. It's a warning of all that, and maybe people not realizing that, but also just kind of a catharsis of like revenge. Like, you know, this is a movie where we get to kind of see someone who's been wrong get their revenge in some way, and that's not to say that that's the right thing, but that's kind of the point of fantasy, right? It's catharsism. It's, you know, it's
and of slasher movies, oftentimes a slasher, there's a catalyst for what made that person a slasher. With Freddy Krueger, it was, you know, the parents killing him.
Whoa. That's a terrible example. He was already like a pedophile. That's not...
Well, he was an accused pedophile. I don't know whether they ever said whether he really did it or not. They accused him of it.
Maybe not in the first movie, but Freddy vs. Jason made it pretty explicit.
Okay, what about Cropsey in The Burning? Although
he was a victim,
he kind of took his revenge on a different group of campers than the campers that messed with him. So that kind of wasn't fair, but
he was definitely a victim. No, but Freddy Krueger's a bad example because he, by all accounts, seemed to be a monster before his incident.
And the guy from Prom Night, the killer from Prom Night, had a decent explanation.
Yeah. And obviously we never sit here and go, that justifies the murder of a bunch of people.
No.
But
I'm just saying that it makes the slasher more interesting than if they're just some... That's one of the reasons why I'm not so into the Strangers movies, because still, I don't know who they are or what they want or why. And I don't care. I need reasons.
Oh, no, I like that. That's why Michael Myers is the best slasher villain there is. The shape is the best.
But he did have a reason. He was just evil. That's his reason. He was just evil.
But why can't you say that for the Strangers then? They're just evil.
Oh, maybe because Donald Pleasance wasn't there to tell me.
Okay, so what you're saying is that Donald Pleasance's character, Sam Loomis, because of the way he spoke about Michael, it gave him this aura of like there's something just pure evil in him, and that was enough to give you some mystique, as opposed to just some people put on a mask and started killing people. Okay, I kind of get what you're saying, but yes, Halloween's the best horror movie ever made. Don't at me, people. So no, I mean it's a fun movie. It does feel like there's like a chunk missing where the pacing feels like it jumps ahead to when stuff starts being explained, but the characters are memorable enough. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to remember them months from now, but I think in the context of the movie, they're all distinct enough that I don't forget who is who or who I'm following. And, you know, like, and part of that's diversity. You know, there's like an Asian guy, there's a black woman, there's you know, the Indian girl. There's a nice mix of people, but they also, even just their personality, they come across all kind of distinctly. Where the Asian guy's a little bit, he's got bitchy. That kind of... bitchy. Yeah, I was going to call it harsh campness, but yeah, bitchy. Yeah, that's probably a better way of putting it. You know, whereas the Indian girl's got this kind of moody, like, I don't want to talk to you kind of vibe, like, all the time.
She's a little emo-ish.
Yeah, a little emo, yeah. And, you know, obviously the manager's just this kiss-ass, like, fake smiles, like, we're going to do great things together, and, you know, all that bullshit. So they're very memorable. So it's very easy to follow the movie. It has all the makings of a fun bottle set in one location, try to survive movie. But it almost forgets to be that and skips ahead to the explanation and the ending a little bit too quickly. Like, I really thought that we'd have a bit more sneaking around, trying to get past the genes, or trying to figure out a way to open the exits, or stuff like that. And it kind of just... I don't know if modern movies, because I feel like I've felt this in a lot of modern movies over the last few years, and I don't know if it's because they're trying to avoid the tropes of movies from previous eras. But honestly, those tropes that I'm saying are missing are a lot of the things that I like about those movies. So I do feel their absence when they're kind of missing. But it's not a bad watch. It's an easy watch. There's some fun kills. Characters are entertaining enough, and it does have a decent enough moral and message that it's trying to get across. So yeah,
and it was I had fun watching it.
Yeah. What are you rating it then? Go on.
I'm gonna give it a 7.
A 7? Oh. I feel like I've been rating higher than you recently, so I'm actually happy that for once I think I'm going a little bit lower. I think if it lived up to its potential that I was feeling early on, I probably would be right there with you, or maybe even going a bit higher. I think as it is, I'm going to go with like a 6. There was a lot of things that I liked about it, and there's a lot of things that I saw more potential in, but I felt it kind of skipped over some of what I thought was going to be the most fun stuff in the movie. But that's a fun, easy watch. I think I'd recommend throwing it on, especially since it's on Shudder and easy to access. Like why not? So there you go. That is Slaxx, the Killer Jeans movie. So by all means, let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. It does help out, as does liking, subscribing, and dinging that bell for notifications. All those things are really important for YouTube. If you listen to the audio version on our Streams After Midnight feed, then give us a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes or Podcast Addict or wherever you get your podcasts from. And of course, you can support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses, including an extra episode every month where we'll do the runner-up to the Patreon vote. So there'll be one coming up soonish from us for September. I had to think about that there. So look forward to that. And of course, at the $5 tier, you get to vote. You get to access that vote and have a say in some of the movies we're going to be covering. And of course, early access and stuff like that. So go and have a look. And of course, at the higher tiers, one of them, of course, gets you a producer credit. So allow me to thank our Patreon producers for the month of September. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. So thank you very much to you all for being some of our most loyal and dedicated supporters, or something. I don't know. I try to say it a different way each time, and I feel like I'm just being condescending when I try to add on more words. Shasha, would you like to promote your channel?
Yes, you can definitely check me out at What Did I Just Watch? And this September, I'm in the middle of All Request Month. So almost every video that I'm doing are requested or suggested reviews.
That seems dangerous.
Oh, yeah. They are trying to kill me. Last week I watched Begotten.
I can't say I've had the pleasure.
Oh, it's narratively it makes Eraserhead look like a mainstream horror movie.
I don't know if I am scared by that or aroused by that. So to be continued.
Yes.
Begotten. Okay, Begotten. As always, the link to Shasha's channel is in the description. So go get clickety click. But here we are. That's Sacred Hockey Mask. This is episode 10, by the way, believe it or not. This is the 10th regular episode of Sacred Hockey Mask. How do you feel 10 episodes in?
I feel like it's going a lot. The more we do, the smoother it gets.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I could say that about every show I've done with anyone. Is that the longer it goes, the smoother it gets. Until you get over that hump where they start to hate each other, and then things go cascading then into a pit of despair. Okay, that's the show. Oh dear. I'm just joshing people. This is fine. Everything's good. I'm not going to murder Connor anytime soon. Well, I'll see how I feel at the end of the week. So thank you very much for joining us. This is with the Sacred Hockey Mask. We appreciate your viewership, as always. Keep watching scary movies, and if someone is spotted wearing the sacred mask, repeat to yourself, hockey season ended months ago.